that summarizes what Part B of the questionnaire would be all about. Part B would be the area that's filled out by the appraiser, taking Part A into account, taking all the answers that the respondent provided into account. Now before we go and implement a 360-degree self-assessment, let's just take a step back and understand what technically 360-degree assessments can measure. What can they assess? So 360-degree assessment will measure behaviors and competencies of all those within the direct 360-degree perimeter of the agency we're trying to assess, of the area of the agency we're trying to assess. Next, it'll address the skills, for example, listening skills, planning skills, and goal-setting skills. It'll focus on subjective areas such as teamwork, character, and leadership effectiveness. And it'll provide feedback on how others perceive the agency. These are the typical areas that 360-degree assessments are used to measure. Again, we want to measure the behaviors and the competencies of all those within the 360-degree perimeter. We want to address the skills, the listening skills, the planning skills, and goal-setting skills. We want to focus on subjective areas such as teamwork, character, and leadership effectiveness. And we want to obtain feedback on how others perceive our agency. Now let's take a look at some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages of the 360-degree assessment. First, let's look at the advantages. So the first advantage it provides is that it's a method, it's an advantageous method of collecting information from as many sources in the employees and client's environment. Next, it provides an honest assessment as viewed by a variety of different constituents. That's anybody that may be within that 360-degree perimeter. Next, it provides confidential input for many people of how an agency fares in its mission and how employees fare in their jobs. In addition, it helps the agency in seeing themselves from the outsider's perception of them. In addition, it provides information which neither the senior level nor the client may be aware of. In addition, confidentiality is an important aspect of the 360-degree assessment. Also, respondents typically find this method to be a fair measure. Another advantage when using the 360-degree assessment technique to measure employee performance is that it gives an indication of performance enhancing or distracting work situations. It allows to improve the system, creating greater harmony and overall improvement. In addition, it helps the agency identify strengths and address the skill gaps. And finally, it lends to continuous learning, growing self-confidence, and improved productivity. These are the key advantages of a 360-degree assessment. Now, advantages to the senior level is that the system is helpful to the senior level as A, an accurate assessment, B, it helps senior level eliminate routines, and C, it helps senior level by providing greater objectivity. These are the advantages that it provides specifically to the senior level. Again, accurate assessment, it helps eliminate routines, and it provides greater objectivity. But let's take a look at some of the disadvantages. Why 360-degree assessment programs sometimes fail. So first of all, one of the disadvantages of a 360-degree performance rating, right? That's where the respondent will rate things based on objectives and standards that have been set the previous year. It's that it's not a validated or corroborated technique for agency assessment. In addition, with the increase in the number of raters from 1 to 5, right? Typically you'll have 5 appraisers. It becomes difficult to separate, calculate, and eliminate personal biases and differences. In addition, it's a very time-consuming method. And it's difficult to analyze the information gathered. And finally, the results can be manipulated by the respondents towards the desired ratings with the help of the raters. That's why, because of these disadvantages, these are some of the disadvantages that contribute to the failure of 360-degree assessments. In addition, this is specifically as it relates to assessing employee performance. The 360-degree appraisal mechanism, when it's used for employee appraisals, can sometimes have an adverse effect on the motivation and the performance of the employees. At times it contributes to an adverse effect on motivation and performance. Also, the 360-degree feedback as a process requires commitment of the top management of the HR, in addition to lots of resources, whether it's time, financial resources, etc. And it requires a strong commitment, planning the implementation and following up. In addition, 360-degree feedback can be adversely affected by the customer's perception of the organization and their incomplete knowledge about the process and the clarity of the process. And often the process suffers because of the lack of knowledge on the part of the participants or the raters. If we have participants and raters that aren't on the same boat, that don't understand the process fully, don't understand what exactly we're driving at with our questions, a lot of times that contributes to the technique's failure. Some of the key considerations to have in mind when contemplating implementing a 360-degree assessment is, first of all, is your organization committed to continuous learning? Does our agency see the value of developing leaders in-house? If yes, are we willing to make the changes necessary to do this? What's the level of trust in the organization? Will the culture that we have in our agencies support honest feedback? And is upper level management willing to lead the way and volunteer for 360-degree evaluation? These are some of the key considerations we want to ask ourselves before spending time on planning and implementing a 360-degree assessment. Are we committed to continuous learning? Do we see the value of developing leaders in-house? And are we willing to make changes necessary to do this? Is there sufficient level of trust in the organization? Will the culture support honest feedback? And is upper-level management willing to participate? Are they willing to lead the way and volunteer for 360-degree evaluation? In addition, we need to train the appraisers to eliminate rater error. The specific errors we're trying to eliminate are the error of central tendency, the leniency or strictness error, recent response error, contrast error, and similar to me error. These are the 5 errors that we need to train appraisers to eliminate. Because without eliminating these specific errors, we'll have very, very inaccurate feedback or very inaccurate appraisal of the feedback. Now, effective appraisal programs, this is more as the assessment, the 360-degree assessment system relates to employee performance assessment. So we need to ensure that the agency appraisal system doesn't violate principles of fair employment practice. For example, job-related performance standards. We need to provide the employees with a written copy of the standards before the appraisal. The standards need to be based on observable or measurable behavior. We need to train the raters for that. We need to provide feedback. And we need to implement an appeal system to settle disagreements. Now, when conducting the appraisal interview, we need to ask for self-assessment. We need to invite participation. We need to express appreciation, minimize the criticism. We need to focus on changing the behavior, not the person. We need to focus on solving problems. We need to be supportive. We need to establish goals. And we need to follow up on a day-to-day basis. To sum up the 360-degree appraisal system, we take a quote from Aristotle that the guest is a better judge of the feast than the host. That's the gist of the 360-degree appraisal system. We're trying to obtain feedback. We're trying to obtain judgment on our agency from the guests, from the people we serve, from the people that are around us, rather than trying to figure out how we're doing on our own. That's the gist of the 360-degree appraisal system. Again, we're going to be looking specifically at the areas that are affected by the specific division of the agency we're assessing, the direct 360-degree perimeter around that area. Those would be the guests that are judging the feast of the host.